Hello everyone and welcome to Diplomatic Briefing. Foreign Minister Wang Yi has begun his visit to India. This is Wang Yi's first visit to India since China and India completed disengagement along the line of actual control and began to cease military conflicts in November 2024. On the evening of August 18th, Indian Foreign Minister Subrahmanyam Jaishankar said at the welcome ceremony that both sides must work to advance the process of de-escalating tensions. On August 19th, Wang Yi held the 24th round of Special Representatives talks on the China-India boundary issue with Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and met with Indian Prime Minister Modi. India has attached considerable importance to Wang Yi's visit this time. According to a report by New Delhi television, this visit marks a milestone in the adjustment of relations between China and India, the two major Asian powers, as they respond to the global turmoil caused by Trump's tariff war. The headline of this report described it as follows: amid Trump's tariff war, China pointed out to India that unilateral bullying is rampant. The report noted that in the statement issued by the Chinese side after the meeting between the two foreign ministers, it was emphasized that Wang Yi told Jaishankar that the world is undergoing accelerated changes unseen in a century, unilateral bullying is rampant, and free trade and the international order are facing severe challenges. This is clearly referring to pressure from the United States. Wang Yi said that as the two largest developing nations with a combined population of over 2.8 billion, China and India should demonstrate a global perspective, embody major country responsibility, set an example of unity and self-strengthening for developing countries, and contribute to promoting a multipolar world and the democratization of international relations. Indian television channel NDTV also cited sources as saying that the Chinese side has already committed to addressing India's three major concerns, which include fertilizers, rare earths, and tunnel boring machines. Among these, rare earth elements are crucial for manufacturing high-tech products such as smartphones and advanced military equipment, and their refining and production are mainly concentrated in China, giving them strategic significance for global technology. The Hindustan Times also reported that through this visit, China and India have achieved positive bilateral results. As relations between the two countries return to normal, China will resume the supply of urgently needed fertilizers, rare earth minerals, and tunnel boring machines to India. In addition, Jaishankar emphasized that India's position on the Taiwan issue has not changed. Indian media have repeatedly linked the thaw in China-India relations to the US, launching a tariff offensive against India for its continued purchase of Russian oil. According to the Hindustan Times, although the atmosphere during the talks between the Chinese and Indian foreign ministers was cordial, US President Trump became the focus of the discussions. Both sides agreed that, given the current direction of US policy, they need to cooperate even more closely. The general consensus is that US policies and decisions will target both China and India simultaneously, and both sides need to engage in dialogue to overcome uncertainties. The report stated that during his visit to China last month, Subrahmanyam Jaishankar held consultations with Wang Yi on issues such as the supply of fertilizers, including urea, NPK compound fertilizers, diammonium phosphate, as well as rare earth minerals and tunnel boring machine supplies, but at that time he did not mention border negotiations or boundary issues. According to the Indian Express, on August 19th local time, Wang Yi held the 24th meeting of the China-India Special Representatives on the boundary question with Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and also met with Indian Prime Minister Modi. A Bloomberg report from the previous day, August 17th, pointed out that the two Asian neighbors, China and India, had a conflict in 2020 over border issues, and relations have been tense ever since. At present, the two countries have been working to stabilize bilateral relations. Recently, India has resumed issuing tourist visas to Chinese citizens, and direct flights between the two countries are also expected to resume. The report stated that there is still room for further progress in the initial thaw of China-India relations. On August 6th local time, just as Trump announced an increase in tariffs on India to 50%, multiple Indian media outlets cited informed sources revealing that Modi plans to visit Tianjin, China from August 31st to September 1st to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit being held there. This will be his first visit to China since 2018. The Hindustan Times, citing informed sources, reported that Modi's participation in the SCO Tianjin summit also creates the possibility for a meeting between the leaders of India and China. Potential topics to be discussed at such a meeting may include further advancing the normalization of relations, such as easing tensions in border areas, resuming direct flights, reopening border trade points, and strengthening people-to-people exchanges. Reuters pointed out that after 5 rounds of trade talks between the United States and India failed to reach an agreement, and after India refused to cut its record $52 billion in Russian oil imports last year, Trump imposed a 50% high tariff, which triggered an escalation of the tariff war. Officials from both the US and India believe that political misjudgments, missed signals, and mutual complacency led to the breakdown of trade agreement negotiations between the world's largest and 5th largest economies. Analysts pointed out that Trump's actions marked the most serious downturn in US-India relations since he returned to the White House this January. These tariffs could disrupt India's access to its largest export market, the United States, and would impact industries such as textiles, footwear, gems, and jewelry. In 2024, India's total exports to the United States approached $87 billion. Indian television channel NDTV also mentioned that while India has been penalized for purchasing Russian oil, the US has yet to impose any so-called secondary sanctions on China. In response, US Secretary of State Rubio said on August 17th local time in an interview with Fox News that if you were to trace the oil Russia sells to China, you would find that most of the Russian crude oil purchased by China is refined and then resold to the global market. If the United States were to impose further sanctions on China, it could drive up global energy prices or force the search for alternative sources in the absence of sufficient supply. Rubio said that some European countries have already expressed their unease. He revealed that during discussions in the US Senate, there was a proposal to impose a 100% tariff on China and India, but some European countries privately conveyed their concerns about this to the United States. Rubio said, "I don't want to be at odds with the Europeans on this issue." In the comment section under the related news, some netizens mocked that this is how the United States treats its friends. This kind of hypocritical and shameless double standard is what truly defines America. Another Indian netizen pointed out even more sharply that the United States does not dare to sanction China because if it really did, the industrial supply chain between China and the US would suffer a major shock, and the damage to the American economy would be far greater than to China's. India is currently the only country that the United States has sanctioned for purchasing Russian oil. To sum up a few observations, first, the United States has always had such double standards, but now Trump and his team no longer bother to hide it. After hearing Rubio's explanation, Indian officials, aside from feeling angry, should also reflect on the fact that in recent years they have completely leaned toward the United States. Wasn't that too naive? With their relationship with their largest neighbor China deteriorating so much, what has India really gained? Second, from Rubio's remarks, we can see that the reason the United States treats China and India differently, even though both countries purchase Russian oil, is not what Rubio claims. It's actually because the US doesn't dare to offend China. Ultimately, China and India differ in size and strength. If you are strong enough, the United States won't dare to smear you just because it wants to. Third, some believe that India's previously hostile attitude toward China was not only due to border issues, but also included actions such as seizing Chinese companies' assets in India and refusing to issue visas to Chinese citizens. Now that China and India are reconciling, is China making too many concessions? When considering China-India relations, we must look at the bigger picture. In recent years, India was encouraged by the US to confront China, but now, cornered by the US, it has sought reconciliation. China need not reject this outright. Moreover, China's rise truly requires a peaceful surrounding environment, and easing tensions along the China-India border is greatly beneficial to China's development. Fourth, if we take a closer look at the products India is concerned about being restricted by China, we can see that in the economic and trade relationship between China and India, China still holds many cards it can play against India. According to a report by the Economic Times of India, China's sudden restrictions on fertilizers have directly impacted India's winter planting season because Indian farmers rely on the supply of fertilizers like monoammonium phosphate. Similarly, China once suspended the shipment of tunnel boring machines originally destined for India's largest infrastructure projects, including equipment produced in China by foreign companies. This has also greatly affected India's infrastructure capabilities. The report also mentioned that India's automotive and electronics industries are seriously concerned about China's restrictions on the export of rare earth magnets and minerals, as shortages could severely impact their production capacity. These kinds of restrictions alone are already enough to cause Indian companies significant pain. As long as it does not sacrifice major Chinese interests, China is willing to ease tensions with India. The key question is whether India can truly wake up from America's instigation and distinguish between friend and foe. Of course, if the US offers India some benefits and India reverts to its old ways, China still has many ways to respond firmly.